Right, the Reds, it's talking Reds on a sunny day in Liverpool, and the sun being out makes everything feel a little bit better. I've got James Pearce with me from The Athletic, the Liverpool reporter for The Athletic, or one of them. James, I'm feeling a bit more positive now about Liverpool, I've got to be honest. Obviously, we had back-to-back wins before this break, and then a few things seem to be falling Liverpool's way during the break, I think. I mean, there's the Trent being dropped by England. I'm personally quite happy about that he gets to stay at Kirby and work with the team and hopefully be in tip-top form for the weekend. Equally, the Brazilian lads as well. They didn't go out on international duty, so they stayed home. And I've seen you put a tweet out saying Roberto Firmino is now likely to be available for the Arsenal match. Does it feel that way to you, mate, that things are maybe on the turn a little bit? Because it's been grim since the turn of the year. I mean, 11 defeats for Liverpool this season and 9 of them since the turn of the year.
Yeah, it does actually. And I know, I think, 20 days between matches, isn't it? I think by the time we come to walk out to face Arsenal on Saturday night, which, and I know some people have said to me, when we have a long break, then you lack rhythm when it comes back to it. But I actually think in this example, I just got the feeling that everyone, even in the games that Liverpool won just before the break, I still think that mentally and physically they looked shattered. And I think even for Klopp and his staff, just have the opportunity to exhale and just kind of like spend a bit of time, reflecting on the last few months and planning for the coming weeks, because it has been absolutely relentless this season with very little let up. And as you said, the South American players not having to go away. Trent, I think that definitely will benefit Liverpool in the coming months. Him not only having that break, but also, having someone like Gareth Southgate doubt him so massively, which, absolutely baffles me how Gareth Southgate can possibly think Alexander-Arnold doesn't command a place in that squad. Yet I've got no doubt that he will react massively positively to that setback, and then Liverpool benefit as a result. And then, especially then, you throw into the mix Jota, obviously looking ridiculously sharp as well. At a time of the season when I think a lot of Premier League footballers will be feeling the strain, it really whets your appetite what Jota could achieve between now and the end of the season. So I think I do feel pretty positive that a season which looked like it was in danger of completely unraveling. Now you actually look at it and go, do you know what? Something could still be salvaged here. Only 5 points off fourth, a winnable Champions League tie, quarter-final coming up against Real Madrid. 2 centre-halves that seem as if they're developing a decent understanding, and Fabinho back in his rightful spot and much better balance to the team.
Yeah, absolutely. All very well said. And it's got me looking forward to the weekend now. Another thing that people obviously love, James, is transfers. No doubt yourself as well, because it gives yourself something to get stuck into. And big news breaking on The Athletic this week is Liverpool's interest in Ibrahima Konate. I hope I've said that right. From Leipzig. Your colleague David Ornstein breaking that one yesterday, and we had him on the Anfield app. There's loads of stuff on the Anfield app about Konate, so download the app, check out the website, all the usual stuff. You can get stuck into that. But yeah, James, this one seems to have jumped out of the blue a little bit. No one sort of previously knew about the link or anything like that, and now we know all about him, obviously, because we've all done our due diligence since. So he's a 21-year-old, he's French, he's 6'4", fast, great in the air, carries the ball out from defence, and there's a £34 million release clause there. Rafa Honigstein in The Athletic today as well, talking about some concerns about his injury record. He's basically saying there it's a round 1 injury, this hip flexor muscle. That's mainly and then recurring things around that. That's been the problem. So he said to sort of label him injury prone is a little bit harsh. I guess one of the questions I've got for you, James, is that we've heard a lot about the player already, as I say, and not least on the Anfield app. What I haven't heard so much about is, what do you think it means for Kabak? Because obviously he's 21 years old as well. He's come in, he's starting to improve. People are starting to like him now. He's obviously, we paid that loan fee to Schalke, and there's an £18 million option to make him permanent. Do you see a scenario where Liverpool buy both players?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think that is a possibility. Dependent, I think so much depends on how Kabak does between now and the end of the season. I think we're probably all guilty of it at times. The kind of short termism of football these days, where I think a lot of people wrote Kabak off, didn't they, after probably 2 or 3 games, and then and now he's put together a few decent performances, and when I think probably it's too soon. I still think to judge whether Kabak is worth buying at 18 million plus add-ons, which is the option Liverpool have. So, because I think the other big thing, which is going to be difficult, I think, for Klopp and Michael Edwards when they come to the summer and obviously having to make a definitive decision on Kabak, is that Klopp has said that he will have Van Dijk, Gomez, Matip back at the stages across the summer going into pre-season. But I just think Liverpool have to be well stocked in that department next season. You can't run the risk of something of history repeating itself with the lack of centre halves this time around. And I just think also we know that players who come back from serious injuries do then have a habit of picking up small muscle injuries, on the back of that. So I think it would be a massive gamble to suddenly be able to almost count Van Dijk, Gomez, Matip as 3 of 4 senior centre halves for next season. I think 5 has got to be an absolute minimum, just because I just don't think you can be 100% sure what you're going to get from Van Dijk and Gomez. And of course, even before his latest problem, Matip's availability has been a massive issue.
And for all that he's done well there as well, we don't want to see Fabinho back there, do we? Because we've
No.
lost so much of him in midfield.
Yeah, I think that's huge as well, because that can't even... I don't even want that to be part of the conversation going into next season. This idea that, you got Fabinho as another option, because I just think one of the massive lessons learned from this season is Fabinho is so important to the whole way that the team functions that I don't want to see him ever play centre half again. Not because he can't play it, because I think he's shown time and time again he can do a great job there, but he is just so much more influential in the number 6 role.
On Konate, the sporting director of Leipzig, sporting director Marcus Krosch, probably said that wrong, definitely have, but he said a switch to Anfield is not an option. He says it's not an option for him. He's got a long contract with us. He knows what we mean to him and what he means to us. We want to help him develop further. We play in Europe. We have a very good team. I don't see a reason for him to leave us. That's quite an odd move, isn't it, to come out so publicly, so quickly, and do that, really, especially when it's sort of widely known that there's a clause there, because surely if Liverpool cough up the clause, I mean, all what he said there is by the by.
Yeah, I must admit, I did read those quotes. I don't know whether something's maybe been lost a little bit in translation, but you're right, because the reality is, because of the release clause, Liverpool don't even have to negotiate a fee with Leipzig. They can just agree a deal with the player and then just go to Leipzig and go, well, there's your release clause met. Thanks very much. So yeah, I think I would take with a pinch of salt certainly those comments, because our information at the Athletic is that there have certainly been discussions already, and that there is a confidence that it will get done in the summer.
The other thing I wanted to get you on today, James, is Mo Salah. Some quotes out there today while he's been on international duty with Egypt. He's done an interview with the Spanish press. He's on the front page of Marca today. He's been asked about playing in La Liga, and he says, "It's not up to me. We will see what happens, but I prefer not to talk about that right now. I hope to be able to play for many more years, so why not? No one knows what's going to happen in the future, so maybe one day, yes." He also did a similar interview in December where he talked about it being a tough question to say what happened in the future. He said everything that is in the hands of the club. He talked then about wanting to break records at Liverpool, and then said again, everything is in the hands of the club. It strikes me as a bit strange, this, James, having seen, interview on international duty thing many times over the years. It is a sort of way of getting a message across. He doesn't ever deal, it seems, with you boys locally. Just walks past with his hands over his face almost when in the mix zone. Hey, what do you make of this? And there was obviously the odd thing from his agent as well, wasn't there, where he tweeted the full stop when Mo was substituted against Chelsea.
Yeah, and I think I tweeted out the version of the story The Athletic did today, and I had a lot of people saying, "Oh, you're making a mountain out of the molehill." It's what else is he going to say? All he said is that one day maybe it's a stock answer. But I think with Mo Salah, you have to look upon it you take a step back and look at the context around it, and you're right. This is a player that hardly ever speaks to the media. So when he does, there's a reason for it. It's not just, no fella from Mark has rang up. I'll give him some. That is a ploy, and a game playing from those close to Salah. And I think probably this interview to stand because of course Liverpool play Real Madrid next week. I think the one with AS in December, you were scratching your head because it was like, well, hang on a minute. Why would you go to AS in Spain to have a moan about not being given the captaincy for a Champions League dead rubber against Midtjylland? So, I think, to me, this is all part of the bigger picture in terms of him throwing it on Liverpool's toes, about his contract situation. I think, that's not no big secret that he's down to the last 2 years of his deal, and certainly his representatives are keen to get him improved terms, whether that's at Liverpool or, as he said today, leaving the door open to a potential move away. I still at the moment he's given Liverpool absolutely no indication that he does want to leave this summer, and I also think, in the current climate, where would he actually go? Because although that's what's that twice in recent months, he's given interviews in Spain and talked about why not maybe one day I will play in La Liga, but it's like Barcelona, what are they, is it €1 billion in debt or something absolutely ridiculous? The idea that they're going to be able to be in a position to test Liverpool's resolve this summer is just nonsensical, and I'm not convinced that Real Madrid are. I think the head of La Liga came out recently and said, the financial, state of their biggest clubs. So yeah, I'm not convinced who, and Liverpool obviously don't want to sell Mo Salah, but I just don't really see, even if he wanted to leave this summer, who is going to be able to pay the kind of money that would even convince Liverpool to have a conversation about whether to do the deal or not.
Yeah, you mentioned 2 years left on his contract. He's 28 now as well. 119 goals in 192 games for Liverpool in his 4 years here, and he's top scorer yet again. Obviously 44 in his first season, then 27, 23, and he's currently on 25 this season. Obviously his value decreases as his deal gets more towards the end. I mean, there's got to be a point though, hasn't there, James? I get what you say, whereas currently you sort of can't see it, and it's perhaps fine for Liverpool almost to do nothing. It's got to be approaching a time relatively soon though, hasn't it, where Liverpool go, well, okay, he is up to something here, and there might come a point where we go, or where Liverpool go, we do need to cash in here. I mean, he would still, you would think, be worth 100 million plus at the moment. Yeah. But obviously, the closer it gets towards the end of his contract, that figure will start to come down.
Yeah. So, and I think I was thinking about it earlier on, and you kind of think, if as I think still looks likely at the moment, he is a Liverpool player going into next season, then I think you have to address the contract situation. I don't think you can just let it slide into, like another season, another year, because you're right. And suddenly you could have a situation where we're sat here talking about Mo Salah giving interviews in Spain in 12 months' time, and he's only got a year left on his contract, and then you're looking at a vastly smaller fee that you'd be able to command for him. So yeah, there is some. I think that was always going to be one of the most fascinating things with once Klopp signed that new contract to stay around till summer 2024. You kind of knew that at some point he is going to have to make some really big, difficult decisions on players who have been unbelievably important for him, in terms of having to gradually build another great team. And that's the big challenge, isn't it? Of knowing when the time is right to go. You've been amazingly good for us, but this is the kind of money we could get for you now. We think your best days are behind you, and we could then use that money in a way to take the team on to the next level. I guess in a similar way to the Coutinho money, what that did for Liverpool in terms of buying Van Dijk and Alisson. So, but I must admit, I don't look at Mo Salah at the moment and think this is someone whose best days are behind him. And I think it's always be careful what you wish for, because his record is just so unbelievably good. I'd be gutted if he left Liverpool this summer, because I think he turns 29 in June. I still think he's got a hell of a lot still to achieve.
Absolutely. More positively from Mo, he was asked specifically about the Real Madrid game, about getting revenge for Kiev, which I'm sure we all love as fans, and he did say, let's just say that I have special motivation to win the tie and go through to the semi-finals. It won't change the result of the final in Kiev, that's in the past, but that special motivation hint there is nice to hear, isn't it? Because me and you have talked before about it's been weird, obviously, all this. It's been weird inside the grounds for you, for them. It's just not the same, with something missing, something not quite riding on it that should be. This little bit of beef from Kiev could make it could make the tie a little bit tastier, couldn't it?
Yeah, I think it will. I mean, it is a bit of a shame that Ramos won't feel the warmth of Anfield. That would have been a decent sight to behold. But yeah, I think it definitely does add an extra edge to it, and also because there's so many players on both teams still there from 2018 as well. And I think some people kind of underestimate the strength of feeling as well that it wasn't just what Ramos did on the night with dragging Salah down and taking him out of the game, and then I know the debate will rumble on just how significant the elbow in the head of Loris Karius was, but Klopp again was absolutely convinced that was responsible for the glaring errors that ultimately cost Liverpool 2 goals on the night. So I think it was also the way that Ramos conducted himself in the days afterwards. The laughing and joking about what he'd done. Saying that if Salah could have had a painkilling injection, saying that there was a lot of kind of like a lot of bad blood. I think what was it, 6 months after the final, when Dejan Lovren, obviously Salah's mate, came out and admitted he deliberately given Ramos an elbow in an international game and even I remember reading an interview when Firmino would describe Ramos as an idiot for the things he said and done. And again, Firmino very rarely speaks to the media. So yeah, there's that definitely does provide an extra edge to this tie. And obviously Real Madrid command respect, but they haven't been having a fantastic season themselves. And I do think it's a tie that Liverpool can win over the two legs. I think the one real major concern would be, as good as Phillips and Kabak have played recently, as we go further in the competition, that obviously the caliber of the players they're up against is going to go up and up. But I think the ones that you'd be really fearful of, Mbappe, Haaland, and probably City with the form they're in at the moment, are obviously, of course, all in the other half of the draw. So, as good as Benzema is, he's not the kind of player who's going to, absolutely kill you with pace and using the space in behind. So, I think, I'm just really looking forward to the two games, and there's no doubt that, I would be amazed if Mo Salah didn't have a big part to play in terms of deciding the outcome.
Yeah, really exciting stuff ahead for Liverpool. Arsenal this weekend, Real Madrid next week. Potential Konate coming in as well. All of that stuff is previewed and reviewed and talked about on the Anfield app. So download the app, you get some free tokens, you can get stuck into some of our premium content there. Thanks very much for coming on, James. Good to see you, mate. And yeah, we'll finish with a clip of some of our premium content talking about Konate, so you can get a little sniff of what it's like if you subscribe. Up the Reds.
If they were to activate Konate's release clause, and let's hypothetically say that they're going to pick up Kabak, that they'll feel as though they've got two footballers to be able to transition that defence forward into the next phase of what it's about for around 60 million quid, around 55 million euros in total. That's the sort of transitioning that you like. We've talked on stat shows and other shows about age profiles, but they'll have Matip at 30, they'll have Van Dijk at 29, Gomez at about 24, 25. It's worth remembering Joe Gomez is 2 months younger than Nat Phillips. And then in the very early 20s, they'll have Konate and they'll have Kabak. And I think Liverpool will feel as though that they can move forward with that and feel as though they will have continuity through the next fair few seasons. That's what I think they may be looking at, and I think it's interesting that the profiles of Konate and Kabak are quite similar, but obviously there's still a lot to be done to even secure this transfer.